Team Octalysis have branded themselves the Assassins of HGC North America, bringing in a Zeratul composition that didn't quite work out Game 1, but a Valyra composition that worked out exceptionally well in Game 2 versus LFM Esports. We're all tied up, J-Hal. What do you think of for Game 3?
2 for 2 in terms of heroes that can go invisible. Time to go a third game.
Samuro? Because Goku's been known to play him.
Nova. The last time we saw Nova picked was on Tomb of the Spider Queen around this time last year. In a fateful Game 3.
We're gonna look at the battlegrounds. He knows. I just want you to know, he knows the battleground in advance.
I know.
That wasn't him.
Oh, wait.
He could see it on the screen.
Oh, yeah, we gotta announce the battleground, Tomb. So, you know, I have this in my notes because this was a popular pick. If you go back to the Roll20 roster and that roster towards the end of last year, Tomb of the Spider Queen was a very popular pick. A lot of Diablo, we know their Diablo and Medivh composition, and they've been running it a lot this year, and I believe they played 10 games on it during Phase 1, and it wasn't necessarily as successful as they had last year, and they continue to run it, they continue to try and figure it out, and to me it's a bit surprising that they go back to this as much as they do due to the lack of success, because even in their wins, they haven't been easy wins.
Yeah, they're sitting at 3 and 4 from part 2.
Okay, part 2. Yeah.
And in that, they did win in the playoffs versus Heroes Hearth, so, you know, it's hard to know what changes are going to come in as a result of roster changes and even role changes. You know, we talk about freedom and having Nazmus take more of a spot in the shot calling. How does that affect the favored battlegrounds? Well, we didn't see them pick shrines yesterday. Could have been that they're trying to hide that for the quote-unquote more important match since they're playing Heroes Hearth today, but even still, we don't know what kind of adjustments will be made, even just what maps come in and fall out of favor as you continue to scrim and start to find success on other maps.
Well, a couple heroes we haven't seen yet that have been very well known for both of the players in Justin and Fury is Johanna and Garrosh. Garrosh obviously has fallen off quite a bit, but Johanna on this battleground normally has much higher priority. And, you know, we've seen teams as early as Midseason Brawl, they started highly prioritizing a Blaze Johanna and then adapting around that. You know, we saw Jaina before. Jaina does have high priority on this battleground, but some of the other mages do. Most notably the Chromie that I was mentioning in the earlier part of this is that something that Prismat very much well known for playing that. It's something that we know Tomb of the Spider Queen tends to bring out Chromie picks.
Tracer Tassadar too on Tomb of the Spider Queen, because the Tassadar is able to cover her lack of wave clear until she can get 13. This is all possible knowing the players for both of these teams. LFM bans out Blaze, so something aggressive this way comes for LFM, given that Bunker is a pretty good way to save your whole entire team.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Blaze does, especially when it's paired with the Johanna, is simply that Johanna does have some initiation, but it's not a hard initiation that we generally see from other tanks. And when we see it paired with a Blaze, if you get the condemn into the jet propulsion, get the big stun, then it kind of supplements a little bit of the lack of CC that you get from Johanna, and that's been a very common pairing for the last month or so.
Now Malfurion has been let through, and it'll be grabbed for the aware. And Tracer's taken away. Not with Tassadar though, Deckard Cain. So that Tassadar might be a possible ban for LFM.
And maybe that's something that Octalysis wants. Maybe they have something else up their sleeve in case that does happen. And again, Johanna can do well against Tracer, gets the blinds out in case she's in the flank position coming in for the kill. Also has Iron Skin, very good wave clear for this battleground, but we'll see if Fury maybe wants something a little bit more aggressive, because Johanna a bit more passive than say a Garrosh or an ETZ, so some decisions to be made as we work our way through.
Tracer and Deckard Cain are low in wave clear themselves, and we know for Tomb of the Spider Queen you need some heroes to offer that. So if LFM doesn't pick up that Johanna, that might also be a ban against Octalysis if they're willing to let Tassadar through. There's options, and while Malfurion is a great pairing along with Tracer because he can provide heals from a safe distance, it's hard for him to be able to get the burst heal to keep people alive through what Tracer has to give.
Phoenix has been a favorite of mine on this battleground, does have the wave clear, and then going into a Tracer, you can trade out well. We're going to see the Jaina again, this time with a Thrall pickup, but one of the things that Phoenix does well is that you can warp out of a Pulse Bomb, you can also trade very well into a Tracer, and so not a priority on the tanks for either of these teams. And Octalysis, again, they do have different strategies that they like to use. We see Octalysis at times try a little bit of everything, including the Stitches, so still some things to consider here, but a lot of damage, a lot of firepower picked up in the early part of this draft.
We still don't know yet if that Thrall is going to be a part of the 4-man or if that's going to be the solo Thrall. And neither is Octalysis, so that's something they will be keeping in mind throughout the rest of this draft until they see the last 2 picks of LFM. Does that change what they want to ban here? They could ban a tank and then pick up their tank here, but that may leave them light if LFM wants to do the same thing. It's hard to warrior choke these 2 tank players. It's a lot more about just what don't you want to play against. Maybe like a new Barak for the... Oh, it is Johanna.
And I go back to the point you made on Tassadar. Does LFM feel like they have to? Tassadar brings the wave clear, helps out Tracer, and it complements everything so well.
And now Octalysis banned Johanna. Those would be the 2 things I would think that Octalysis would be wanting here, so I agree.
This is just... It's tricky. One of the problems that I have with Chromie on this battleground is that Chromie, yes, you land Qs over time, eventually it ramps up in damage, and that's great, but when you run compositions like this and you lack wave clear, you now have to prioritize your W on waves for wave clear, else you're just going to have those waves pushed in against you. Gul'dan is also a thing to consider as well, and the Chromie ban's going to come in anyways.
Seen a fair amount of Chromie in North America over today and yesterday. Or if nothing else, Chromie respect. Like in a ban here.
Yeah, a lot of respect.
Now, do we see a Tassadar for Octalysis? I'm pretty sure Prismaticism has played a fair amount of Tassadar in his time.
It's pretty flexible.
It's Tassadar, so you've generally got someone who can play him.
Just warrior-wise, ETC 2 games in a row for Fury. Not as well known on this battleground. I think a little bit more susceptible. There's going to be our first Garrosh, and we do get the Gul'dan. So you get the wave clear, you get something that Prismat is comfortable on, plus you get a very tanky front line there. So you get quite a bit out of this draft for Octalysis. And for Fury, Stitches is a thing. He's quite proficient on the hooks, and you get hook root, whether that's from actual roots from Malfurion or a root from Thrall and a little bit of follow-up damage from Jaina. Very much a possibility. You're not forced to go out. You're not forced to fight. The problem is that if you're Stitches and you get tossed over by a Garrosh, it is a long walk home until you get to level 10. Might be a little bit quicker if you go Putrid Bile, but getting out of there is the hard part.
Yeah. Generally, Putrid Bile is not the most reliable of escapes, but it is what you have.
Murden.
Yeah, I think it's going to be... We saw and a new Barak this match, right?
Yeah, but that was on Octalysis' side.
Mm-hmm.
There he is.
Hey. And Phoenix. So we were talking a little bit about Varian yesterday because he is one of the warriors that experienced changes with the armor changes. He no longer has armor once he picks up Taunt, but Quantum Spike would cut through that with the % damage, so you're only getting armor versus the initial burst part of a Pulse Bomb. Now he has the increased health and health regen that you got from the patch, also more health from Taunt to make up for not having the armor there. So I wondered if we would see Varian more in these situations versus a Tracer. And this is going to be our first chance. At Midseason Brawl, it didn't really work. And that's because although you can get Shield Wall, just wait until you use that and then Pulse Bomb him after the fact. There's no protection and he just dies.
Leo's appealing because there's not a lot of mobility and you can lock down the front, but I feel like a Sonya or Dahaka are really going to come in here when I think about Goku. So they do go the Dahaka. I mean, it's definitely safer. Very good wave clear. Matches up very well against the Thrall in the early game. So they have an abundance of wave clear with their last 2 picks between the Gul'dan and the Dahaka. So I think, assuming that's going to be Draded on Tracer, there is going to be quite a bit on the shoulders of Draded to confirm those kills, because Gul'dan, he has sustained damage, but he's not killing anybody early game.
Right.
No matter how much CC you have, Gul'dan is not the one that you want to confirm those kills. Tracer really has to carry a lot of that weight. And so this is, again, the front line of Octalysis between Justine and Goku and the support of Buds. We know what to expect there, but I think with this new roster, 2 new backliners, we still don't know the full effect that they have, that they can pull out. And it will evolve, it will get better, but if you're gonna make a statement, this is the time. This is your most meta draft that you've played in these 3 games. You got to keep it standard, but you've got a lot to carry on the Tracer.
All right, Gul'dan needs an Executioner. And later on, you'll have the big poisons, but Malfurion is a sustain healer who can try to deal with that. And if we see the same lack of coordination from Octalysis that we saw in the first game, getting kills was a problem for them. So we'll see if it's more of the coordination, the synergy that we saw in the last game, or more like the first game for Octalysis. Meanwhile, with LFM's draft, the Varian getting the taunt, having roots and lots of damage and kill potential from multiple people from LFM's squad to follow that up. They get that as early as level 4. Get some early kills from that, try to snowball the game with some turn-ins, and take out structures as best they can.
Yeah, what Octalysis is lacking in early game kill potential, LFM has it in abundance if they can get any type of lockdown. So we'll see if Octalysis can maybe keep out of range of that. Obviously, Garrosh does do well to survive in a lot of that. Deckard, a lot of surviving himself with that armor, and then of course a lot of sustain with the healing being thrown out there. But LFM not looking to engage here in the early game. They're just going to look to disrupt the rotations, and this is something you can do with a Jaina. You have more significant wave clear on the top, force out a rotation, and just don't play into what they're doing. They
are a level 4 comp, and why expose yourself to a throw from Garrosh if you don't have to?
How about that?
Why expose yourself to a throw?
Yeah, about that early game kill potential thing. The thing that happened there that's actually a really good play that you can look at, right? So Aware was sitting in the bush and he's like, well, we want to disrupt the rotation, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some roots down so when you pass through here. And Justin, he's like, well, I've been around the block a time or two, fella. So he literally walked around the block and just walked left. And when you put roots down, you're dismounted. So hey, there's that.
And I was just thinking to myself, when you have Deckard Cain as the follow-up for Garrosh, Sapphire is going to help, and you have the increased slow from your Roderick Cube, but the lockdown of Scroll of Sealing takes so long that it's not a guarantee. But then, oh man, that was just, yeah, you got to know that Drag's going to come in. But he made it out. He did get out in time. The follow-up is not as guaranteed as like Uther's right there with a Hammer of Justice or Malfurion with roots. But then I remembered it's Justin and Butts. Enough said.
Yeah, just early game kill potential versus each other. Not normally you expect to see. Also, we're seeing a different build, getting the extra range on your Fellflame for Gul'dan here. So Prismat, obviously going up against several ranged members, wants to play at a very safe distance, making sure that he doesn't get caught in a taunt and things of that nature. And then if he does want to move forward, does get that extra range to hit that back line. Something a little bit more difficult to kill, especially when you're primarily going to be facing one melee because the other one's off in the solo. So it will take some time to get that up, but definitely has some late game potential.
Right, and it has more of the sustain ability damage too when you build into Rampant Hellfire and later on. Versus seeing the Ruinous Affliction, the tons of corruption, the tons of poison damage. And that may be an adaptation because of the Malfurion, or it might just be trying to make sure that they have more of that sustained upfront damage to go along with the Tracer. Regardless, Octalysis having their bruisers, getting that one kill, and getting a lead in the rotations for these lanes, gets quite a bit done with this too, taking out one of the towers, working on another one, and has a level lead at the start of this game 3.
That's a pretty significant margin. I mean, we will see LFM have an opportunity to kind of do the same if they want to push with theirs. It looks like they're going to catch the top wave and then potentially rotate down, but with the Gul'dan, they do have a pretty decent amount of wave clear themselves. See Jerated kind of poking.
There it is.
There's going to be the taunt. See if we can get the blow up. Not in time. There's going to be the recall.
Oh, so freaking good knowing where the recall was going to be, hitting her as she was trying to blink through with the Feral Spirit. They hit 4, and they do exactly what is needed with this comp. They get aggressive.
Ever since they made that change where you can see the recall position, it's always scary. Because it's like, wait a minute, I actually know where you're going now.
It is. So. It's a... I mean, that was still predictive, and it was awesome. It's a lot. When it's chaotic, then you can rely on maybe being able to get away a lot more, but that was clear as day where he was going to end up. And it gets LFM back into this game. They get 25 gems turn in, so they're not too far behind Octalysis.
And Goku was trying to get his turn in, and it looks like we actually have a little bit of a skirmish. There's going to be a taunt. The root self-cleanse once that taunt wears off because that is a silence. So able to walk away from that. No cleanse needed there. Deckard doesn't have it.
No, he does not. LFM right back into this game, which is really good to see. Drag is going to connect, but with Figgy coming in now, Goku needs to be careful about this. Burning the essence to keep himself healthy. Teams are just running around chasing each other, see who can get the kill on the other one first.
It is surprising to see not just one team be aggressive, but both teams, and they have, you know, good CC, and this is one here, but Fury on a Varian, not quite the same. And you can see Traded does not want any part of that taunt. There's going to be another Indomitable use. Justine making sure to get out of danger, but Traded very much respecting the Varian now. And you can see Traded just kind of hanging out, trying to find an opportunity. There's going to be a taunt. See if we get the root follow-up. Instead, we get a Dragon return. Do we have a Pulse Bomb? It is going to be there, and that's going to be another kill as Traded goes. And we get another kill up here. Justine and team doing work as Jaina falls as well.
I think that was well done by Traded to hang out down around where Goku was too. The target wasn't swapped over to Tracer, who's going to take a lot more damage off of things like the Heroic Strike, just damage in general, because she has a much weaker health bar than a Dahaka. And from that, getting the kill there and a second kill on Jaina is about worst case scenario for LFM, because Octalysis have already done some structural damage to open up ahead of these Web Weavers. We'll see how much they can get done with them and if they can set themselves up to try to go for a double turn in or as close to with the gems that they have with their potential heroic abilities from this.
Well, we saw an early push from that night camp here for Octalysis. They're going to capitalize on that. This is oftentimes how it goes. The Root's going to put down, zoning out several members. Fury trying to get out of there. He's going to get a taunt, making sure Traded can't get any further. Traded does have a Pulse Bomb available, so if he does find an opportunity, he will take it. Pulse Bomb, again, scales well, but still here in the early game and without that level 10 doesn't give you that big burst damage to confirm a kill like we saw in that previous moment.
Fort goes down, rotation straight to the bottom where Goku has been hanging out, and Swab's giving a lot of respect to that quick mid-bot rotation. Unfortunately for the Aware, he gets thrown over into the maw of the Lion. I'm not talking about Varian, I'm talking about all of Octalysis who get that kill unaware and feel very good. With a singular Web Weaver phase taking out 2 forts, they have set themselves up very well in this third game.
The Aware has to be very
No, don't you?
His positioning.
You looked at me, and I was like, don't.
But
and you did it anyway.
This is now twice that he's in places he shouldn't be. That's somebody else's role to be in that. The problem that we see from LFM, and they don't have mobility in the same traditional sense from the rest of the heroes. You know, you got a Wind Fury potentially from Thrall, and that's about it. And now, no Pulse Bomb went off there.
He already tried to use Warp, not that it would have mattered. The taunt was well enough to get another kill. Octalysis are starting the snowball through this, taking out the Bruisers here, getting another Web Weaver phase. They have comboed this extremely well to do maximum amounts of damage to LFM.
The worst part about it is not only have they gotten the kills, Gilly, but they've taken away a lot of the gems. There's only 24 gems in the pocket of LFM. That should be enough to return. I can't remember how much they had on turn-in, but that's nowhere near enough to have any type of comeback situation. There's actually more sitting in the pockets, or right around the same, of Team Octalysis, who are ramping up here as this game goes on. Keep Wall falls. They should have a fort in the top, and we're going to be looking at 13 soon.
Droplets has to be careful. We saw the interrupt from his warp from Justine, but Prismaticism with Horrify is very effective versus that too. If he has to get into a situation where he needs to warp out like that, he's not going to make it out.
Well, we do see the Earthquake. That does pair very well with the Salvo to make sure that you have several targets locked into that. A lot easier to land, but the flanking position is going to be tough. Tracer's going to be out. See if she can blink out of there. And then obviously Dahaka and Garrosh, very, very tanky. Deckard, tanky as well with that 10 armor as long as he's near somebody. So getting value out of that Salvo will come at a premium. So it's going to be a lot on to the Thrall and the Jaina to get a lot of follow-up damage, get a lot of burst to try and get through this somewhat tanky team here of Octalysis, or even elusive part of this team.
And while we see the shield wall from Fury, as we hypothesized, it does mean there's no Warbringer for the charge cooldown reduction and charge to your allies. And this is something that Octalysis might be able to take advantage of. They have a lot of displacement between Dahaka and Garrosh, even Horrify too. As they flip him over, he uses the shield wall, the Pulse Bomb, and there it is, the Horrify and taunt.
Now we've got to stay a while and listen. Swabs comes in for the flank onto Buds, who had to stay a while and listen. Salvo's going to be out in return, but Jaina falls before she can get any damage. And look at the health bars of Octalysis, very, very healthy. Now they're going to run all over LFM. This is going to be a keep falling here momentarily, and I would not be surprised. Draded about to have another pulse bomb available, see if he can make an opportunity, go in for another kill. If they get a lockdown, the drag just barely misses onto Droplet.
And while we saw the Salvo comboed with the Earthquake as we would have envisioned, having the spell armor of the Bruisers, you saw everyone underneath that from Octalysis, and that plus the healing of Deckard Cain, having the shielding from his potions at level 4 is enough. Even Ancient Blessings to deal with that kind of area damage just really did not pack the punch that LFM were hoping for from that combo. And Octalysis have a 3-level lead taking down a keep, have catapults pressuring now too, and they are continuing the onslaught.
LFM lost about another 30 gems, if my math is even halfway accurate there. And
I believe in you.
It's a problem. I mean, they have yet to get a turn in, and they have no semblance of a turn in anywhere near. I mean, Octalysis is dangerously close to getting 16. They already have catapults, and they have insane wave clear with Gul'dan. And so finding an opportunity to get a turn in with a solo Varian, it's hard to engage. You don't have the mobility to get out. Because you went shield wall, you can't charge to your allies to get out of danger anymore. So casually pushing forward with this composition is going to be difficult. And the camps are your best bet to buying real estate on this battleground. Those are nowhere even near being seen.
The Haka. Oh, they'll change their minds on that. This time a recall is good from Draded, and there's no fear once that combo initially goes out. As long as Draded lives through it, then Octalysis can get aggressive.
Shield wall going to keep the pulse bomb there. Justin very far forward. Salvo's going to come out, see if it's enough damage. Thrall's actually going to be the first to fall. Droplets barely gets out with a warp. We're going to see the corruption going out, trying to get some damage done. Goku's going to land a tongue. That's going to be Jaina falling, and Octalysis looking for more.
Goku had his pick of the litter chasing down those 3. Chose to take out Jaina, and now looking for more. Aware dodges the drag. Unfortunately for LFM, this is 3 more kills when they are already so far behind. Bruisers in the mid pushes this out even further along with the catapult. 16 nearly achieved, and Octalysis are close to being able to get a turn in. There's still a boss available. Basically, the world is their oyster.
It's possible they might just try and do both. At this point, they're two talent tiers ahead.
4-level lead.
4-level lead. This is an absolute clinic. Pulse bomb's going to be used there to try and burst through this a little bit quicker. Goku's already getting the turn into the bottom. This is going to be one heck of a push that LFM has to deal with. Between a Phoenix and a Jaina, they do have it. The problem is, does Octalysis simply walk past everything that LFM is trying to defend with and just try and get the takedowns and in the game?
We'll find out. The clearing out of this mid, it's taking a little while to get the gems in, so the boss is going to be the first to show up. Nobody from Octalysis is pushed along with us. They're trying to make sure that they can get the minions there, which gives a little bit of time to clear out.
This is, again, where Jaina and Phoenix do excel, is clearing things quickly. Is the boss already down to 50%? The problem is, once the minions move up, because once the minions are there and they get past this wall, they will start taking the keep damage, and this team of Octalysis will casually walk up in your face and look for that fight. And you can see Justin just walking past the keep right now.
Earthquake. Horrify pushes away Malfurion from this, but this is a place where they might be able to get some done. In fact, it forces them to use Stay While and Listen because Octalysis were getting very low, but once again, a great drag spells the end of Varian, and now Octalysis getting that 1 kill, knows that the end just might be nigh. Justin slams Malfurion to the ground, taking out this keep. They have Web Weavers behind this. The mid Web Weaver already on the core, and this looks to be GG.
Absolute clinic, 4-level lead. You don't see it too often, but Octalysis came out with a vengeance. Some of the early game positioning, a lot of those gems being dropped in this composition, just a little bit too squishy. It has a lot of firepower, but with firepower comes the vulnerability, and I think that was the weak spot that was exposed here by LFM. Top-notch play from Draded, making sure to confirm those kills, but Goku landing the drags. We saw several plays being made. Prismat on Gul'dan, he's like, I'll be here if you guys need me, but he just kind of played his role. Everybody played that extremely well, and Justine lived through some of those clutch moments. Octalysis looked good that game.
It felt like there was 1 kill for LFM. They got the 1 kill on Tracer, and after that, Draded was like, I need to pick up the slack from this. And After that, you know, we saw the attempted gank onto Haka down in the bottom. Draded showed up for that. The cooldowns were used trying to get that kill into Haka. And then that double kill, taking out both Thrall and Jaina at once, that was a big problem because already there had been a lot of structural damage done. That Gul'dan with the wave clear was really good for Octalysis, and because they got a web of return in, had the experience advantage from those couple of kills, and they snowballed that hard. 2 forts in like a 2-level lead with your first web weavers. I mean, you're asking for a difficult comeback.
I think LFM, again, when you run compositions like this, we've seen it from certain teams, is that you can draft a lot of damage, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you gain an advantage in terms of the real estate on the map, because once you lose the first web weaver phase or any of those waves get pushed up to you, you can clear them, but that doesn't mean you can step out. And that was kind of the biggest thing. We saw some very good flanks coming in from the Thrall. The Earthquakes were there, but Garrosh, every time he takes more and more damage, gets more and more armor, and you could see it was almost like the tipping point. If you could get past that, get the Garrosh takedown, but they weren't able to do so, and it's hard. You can't lock down the tracers easily. Garrosh up there, and Deckard and Garrosh just somehow seemed unkillable.
Well, we've been talking a lot about the changes that came in for both of these teams, so let's take a closer look at some of the roster changes, starting with LFM Esports. This team did go to the Crucible, but defended their spot versus XD, and then acquiring Fury from Gale Force Esports and picking up Droplets, who played for King's Gambit, a team with the E-Bros, had a lot of hype behind them, almost claimed another spot in HGC, and then Draded released from there because he came over to replace either Kira or Dansky, and then Prismaticism coming back to Octalysis. When you saw these 2 roster changes, these 2 rosters, what were your immediate thoughts?
Kira and Dansky are pretty stellar. Like, they're really, really good players, and they're really good when they're together, and they have been for quite some time. So when I saw that, I was like, all right, that's going to have a clear impact on the Octalysis roster. But then you start hearing about Prismat. I'm like, okay, we know he's a solid player, what we're going to get out of him, but who's going to be the next one? And when I heard Draded, I'm like, this has potential. This has a very high ceiling on what this team can achieve with him on that back line. The problem is we don't know what that ceiling is yet. So far, the last few games, so good, but it's not